How can you set goals so that you can achieve them? Tell me if this sounds familiar. Every year you set some goals, and somehow by February, life has gotten in the way. You tell yourself that you'll get back to achieving that goal, but when the next year rolls around, it's not done and you haven't gotten to it. Why does this happen? Not just to you, but to thousands of others. And how can you actually achieve the goals you set? I've done this too. And it wasn't lack of work ethic or lack of motivation that was the reason behind why I wasn't achieving them. I am literally the queen of to-do lists and getting things done. So where was I going wrong? I wasn't sure what the next logical thing to do was, so I did what anyone does. I used Google and looked for how to set goals. And I found articles about all sorts of goal-setting systems. SMART goals, dumb goals, wow goals, all sorts of books and systems, all these things that supposedly would help me get things done. And so I applied all those things, and I even bought a couple of apps to help me stay on track. But here's the thing, it didn't fix the problem. And the reason it wasn't working was because I was setting goals all wrong. And there was no amount of Googling how to set goals that was going to fix my fundamental problem. So fast forward to now, and I've earned my way into a leadership position. I've written a book. I've started a business. And I couldn't have done any of those things without figuring out how to set and achieve ambitious goals. So today, I'm going to share with you 4 reasons why your goals aren't working for you, just like they weren't working for me, and what you should be doing instead. Now, before I share those things, I want to invite you to grab a free copy of my 2-hour career visioning plan. There's a link right below this video where you can grab it. If you're struggling to figure out where to go with your goals, the very first step is to create your own personalized vision of what your success looks like in the next year. This document walks you through that process step by step so that you don't have to spend years figuring it out on your own like I did. Grab your copy now. Here are the 4 reasons your goals aren't working for you and what you should be doing instead. Number 1, you don't have a real why behind your goals. So I was working on an engineering project where the latest estimate had come in at about 20% over budget. The cost for the materials for the project had skyrocketed since we had done the initial estimate. There had been some time that had passed, and that meant, because we were so far over budget, 20%, that the project was now at risk of being shelved. Each team member was tasked with looking at their scope and trying to figure out how we could better optimize the systems or produce some value engineering concepts that we could present to each other in a meeting, with the target being a 20% cost reduction. I spent hours going back through all of my analysis and cutting a little bit of material here and there, and it barely put a dent in getting to that 20%. Then I was looking at a report given to me by another consultant, a geotechnical report that I had used to design the foundations for the project. And there was a line in there that said, based on the loads provided to me by the structural consultant, which was me, these parameters should be used in the design. So I started thinking about this and got a bit curious. I wondered if the loads were different, would the parameters change? So I called the report writer, I talked to him, and it turns out that the parameters would be different, and more importantly, with some very minor modifications to the design, we could easily save that 20% just on foundations alone. So the project was back on and it didn't get shelved. My goal with that project was to cut costs by 20%. But at first I was asking the completely wrong questions, trying to cut a little bit here and there instead of looking at the bigger picture. It's a mistake I have made myself, and one I see all the time when helping other technical women set career goals. We miss the bigger picture for the weeds, and we often jump into, how can I do this, instead of wondering if we should really be doing this to begin with. So here are a couple of examples of things I see commonly. You have this goal of, I'm going to get a promotion this year, but you're not really thinking about why you want that promotion to begin with, other than, well, it's the next career progression that's logical based on what the outside world is telling me about my career. Similarly, often we decide in January that we need to lose weight and get in shape, not necessarily because we actually want to do it, but because we've been bombarded so often with visual images via social media, via advertising, about how our bodies should look, that we have absorbed that, and now we think we're not measuring up. I need to set this as a goal. The questions to ask instead are, why does this goal matter to me? Does it really matter to me? So instead of immediately jumping into outcomes, how can I get this done with this goal you set? Have a deep-seated why for why it's important to meet your goal. The second reason that your goals aren't working for you is because you have set goals that have outcomes beyond your control. So let me give you an example, sticking with you want to get a promotion. So first, it's a wonderful aspiration. You should definitely go for it. The challenge is that hoping and wishing for a promotion isn't going to get you one. So you have to drill this down into specific things you can do that you can control. So here's a high level of example of how you might do that in this case. First, you could talk to your supervisor about wanting a promotion and ask specifically what you would need to do within an agreed upon time frame to get there. Next, you document the things you would need to do based on your conversation and send a follow-up email to your manager to make sure you're both on the same page. The third thing you would do, make a plan to do the things on the list and then start doing them. You might want to put monthly check-ins with your supervisor to specifically discuss your promotion plan and how it's going, getting feedback where you can do better. And finally, you'd want to make sure that you're documenting all the things you've done so there's no surprises when you get to your performance review about if you've achieved the things that you agreed upon that you'd need to get the promotion. Now, does that 100% guarantee that you're going to get it? No. There could be unforeseen budget cuts, or economic recession could hit. There could be decisions higher up that are out of your control that you have no influence over. But here's the thing, by setting not just, I want to get this promotion, but these very kind of logical steps as to things that are in my control that I can do to be very proactive about this, you set yourself to give you a much greater chance of success in achieving that goal. The third place we go wrong when we set goals is that we rely on motivation to get them done instead of habit. Motivation is fleeting. Our brains only have so much willpower and decision-making capability per day, and when we are stressed and tired, we will always default to our habits. You can read more about the scientific basis behind why that happens in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. Highly recommended. But for the purposes of this video today, the thing to understand is that you cannot rely on motivation if you want to successfully achieve your goals. Instead, make working on your goals a habit. So what do I mean by that? If you have a goal that's important to you, you make time for it. And you make time for it consistently so that it becomes a habit like brushing your teeth. So here's another example. Let's say you want that promotion, but you're an introvert like me, and perhaps you know you really need to have a conversation about this with your manager first thing, but the idea makes you feel uncomfortable. So you put it off. You put it off for other things on your to-do list that you can check off much more quickly and feel better to you. And so that continues every single day. It hangs over you. And the longer you go on, the longer it takes for you to work up the courage, if you do it at all, to have the conversation. And then a year rolls by and you've never had the discussion. When that happens, that's a really, really good way not only to not achieve any of your goals, but also to demotivate yourself. Instead, imagine that if you made your goal into a habit. Let's say you made it something you did during the first 15 minutes of every workday. So you set a calendar reminder, 15 minutes at the beginning of every workday, you're focused on this particular professional goal. All you do during that time is look at your written goal that you've written down, this is what I want to achieve, and ask yourself, what can I do in this 15 minutes I have today to move me closer to that goal? Maybe it's drafting an email to your manager requesting a meeting. Maybe it's making an outline of what you are going to say in the meeting so that you can feel comfortable talking about this and putting forth your big ambitious goal of, I want a promotion this year. The key here is to be consistent. Even if you have a tiny bit of time, 10 or 15 minutes daily, that adds up and compounds over time when you spend that working on your goals, the things that are most important to you. Finally, the fourth place that we go wrong is that we set too many goals. Now, I have personally been guilty of this often. I have a chronic habit of taking on too much. And I used to get 3, 4, 5, 6 goals at the beginning of the year when I started combining professional and personal goals, because I thought to myself, well, let's set lots of goals. Achieving more is better, right? And what I found was that I was setting all these goals, I was making all these plans, but I wasn't actually achieving any of them when it came around to the next year. Why? Because I was trying to do too much. So when you're looking at your goals, if you have a list of a couple, pick the one that's most important to you and do that one first. Focus your small time blocks, so a minute ago we talked about 15 minutes a day, on progressing that single goal until it's done, and then move to the second one down on the list. What that does is it builds momentum. It builds confidence within you that yes, I can set ambitious goals and I can achieve them. And that creates this domino effect of momentum in your life where you are confident that you can go for it. To recap, here are 4 things that you're doing wrong when you're setting goals and what you should do instead. Now that you've got your biggest goal set, let me know in the comments. Sharing your goal doesn't only make it more likely that you'll achieve it by writing it down, but it inspires and empowers others to achieve great things too. And stay tuned for my next video, where I'll share my own secret sauce for finding time in your day so that you can achieve the goals you set. Even if you're balancing kids, a career, volunteering, starting your own business. Oh yeah, and you actually need some sleep at some point too. Before you go, don't forget to grab your free copy of my 2-hour career visioning plan via the link below this video. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more practical tools, tips, and strategies to find your voice, engineer a career on your terms, and make your mark on the world, be sure to subscribe to our channel.